Hello. In my quest to make this the most interesting and helpful lecture, I've decided to try a few AI tools. This one is called Gamma. I'm not sure I'll keep it. Seems to have a problem with fonts. But let's go ahead with today. Welcome to today's deep dive into one of sociology's most fundamental questions. How do we become who we are? We're exploring socialization, the life course, and aging. Basically, the entire human journey from birth to our later years. Think of this as sociology of becoming and being human across time. Let's start with the basics. Socialization isn't just about being social. It's the social process which we develop awareness of social norms and values while achieving our distinct sense of self. Notice the three key points here. First, it's lifelong. Forget the idea that you're done developing after childhood. I am so not done developing. We're constantly adapting, learning new roles, entering different stages of life, and that sort of thing. Also, second, it's about cultural transmission, how culture passes from one generation to the next, maintaining social order. You're not just learning random stuff, you're absorbing the accumulated wisdom, rules, and ways of being from those who came before you. This process literally shapes who you become as a person. Here is your reality check. Socialization absolutely does not stop at childhood. Adults, even old ones like me, constantly experience resocialization as they and we take on new roles and desocialization as we leave others. Anyone who's become a parent, changed careers, or moved to new culture knows this intimately. Three heavy hitters shaped how we understand socialization. George Herbert Mead gave us self-development theory. We develop our sense of self through social interaction, learning to see ourselves through others' eyes. His concept of the I, spontaneous self, and me, the social self, explained how we balance individual impulses with social expectations. Charles Horton Cooley's Looking Glass Self shows how our self-concept forms based on how we think others perceive us. We imagine how we appear to others, imagine their judgment, and adjust accordingly. Jean Piaget mapped cognitive development strategies from sensory motor awareness to formal operational thinking with abstract concepts. Each stage represents different capacities for understanding ourselves and our social world. So let's look at our first multiple choice question. According to George Herbert Mead, children develop self-awareness through B, taking the role of the other. Mead believed children develop self-awareness by learning to distinguish from the me and the I through play that involves seeing themselves from another person's perspective. This role-taking ability is foundational in developing social consciousness. Here's where socialization gets real, and I apologize for this small font. I just can't seem to get it much bigger. We have primary and secondary agents. Primary socialization starts with the family, your very first social experiences, your core values, and emotional support partners. In modern society, this typically means nuclear family, so family structures do vary widely. Secondary socialization is a lot more. It includes education, peer groups, media. And education is when schools teach academic skills, but also social rules through both official curriculum and hidden curriculums. For peer groups, friends, and age mates, as some people call them, provide social acceptance, identity formation, and alternative perspectives to family values. Media, both traditional and digital, shape understanding of social norms, beauty standards, cultural values, and topics parents might not want to address. Work teaches professional behavior and emotional regulation. Each agent can sometimes give conflicting messages, creating tension in your development. So I want you to stop and think. This is your moment for honest self-reflection. Think about specific childhood examples where family, school, peers, and media each taught you something important about social norms or values. More importantly, consider how these different sources sometimes gave you conflicting messages. Maybe your family valued one thing while your peer group valued something else. Maybe media representations contradicted what school taught you. These conflicts are normal and actually crucial for developing your own independent thinking values. Two critical dimensions of socialization and that shape life genders are gender socialization and race socialization. Gender socialization involves learning gender roles through schooling, peers, media, and family. From birth, different expectations exist for boys and girls. From toys, clothing, activities, and media representations all reinforce gender roles and influence gender identity formation. Race socialization consists of specific verbal and nonverbal messages older generations transmit about the meaning and significance of race. Families teach children about racial and ethnic identity, prepare them for potential discrimination, and celebrate cultural heritage and history. Both processes help children develop positive identities while learning to navigate social inequalities. These aren't just individual experiences. They're systemic social processes that affect opportunities, expectations, and life outcomes. Mass media contributes to gender socialization in many ways. So, your short answer question is explain how mass media contributes to gender socialization and provide at least two specific examples. You'll notice here, as I did in other locations, I'm going to give you a couple of sample answers. So if you're stuck when you get this question on the lecture, come on back and see what it says. For example, character representation shows males typically outnumbering female characters and taking more active roles, while female characters are often portrayed more passively. Toy marketing creates gender-type products, though manufacturers are slowly moving toward gender-neutral options. Role modeling occurs as children and adolescents model gender roles and practices they see in the media, learning what behaviors are considered appropriate for their gender. This impact is subtle but pervasive. Media doesn't just reflect gender norms, it actively shapes them. Now we're going to zoom out to see the big picture. There are 5 major life stages in the life course, and each with different social expectations. Childhood is typically viewed as age 0 to 12, where you learn basic skills, develop personality, and form early relationships. Remember, the concept of childhood as we know it only developed over the past 2 to 3 centuries. Adolescence, which is age 13 to 18, is all about identity exploration, peak peer influence in time, and preparation for adult roles. This stage did not even exist until the early 20th century. Teenagers trying to act like adults while being legally treated as children. And then we move to the young adult. I will say demographers and other sociologists are not 100% when adult ends, young adult ends, and middle adult starts. So mostly it's 19 to 40, but sometimes all the way up to 45. In this time, you establish your career, begin intimate relationships, potentially start families. Furstenberg, in your book, identified traditional benchmarks, but young people increasingly define adulthood through abstract traits, like self-reliance. Middle adulthood, again starting somewhere between 40 and 45, depending on how you want to break it, is usually the peak career years, caring for children and also children, aging parents. It also involves community involvement. Entry is more about social roles than a specific age, which is probably why it's hard to determine. Later life, which is currently still thought of as 65 plus, but this too may be moving, is often about retirement transitions, grandparenthood, health changes, legacy building, and that kind of thing. Authority patterns differ significantly between traditional and industrialized societies, which we will explore more. So the next question you have is Frank Furstenberg identified 5 benchmarks for the transition to adulthood. Which of the following is not one of these benchmarks? The answer is C, getting a driver's license. Furstenberg's first 5 benchmarks are leaving parents' home, finishing school, getting married, having a child, and being financially independent. While getting a driver's license might feel important personally, it's not one of those formal sociological benchmarks for adulthood, according to this researcher. I would argue also we should think about getting married and having a child. Are those necessary to become adults? Those are things we'll think about in the future, but please notice that Frank Furstenberg identified these benchmarks, and that dude's old, so things change. So here's a discussion question. Reflect on the changing definition of adulthood, just like I was talking about. How do you personally define when someone becomes an adult? And do you think Furstenberg's traditional benchmarks are still relevant today, or should we focus more on abstract traits like self-reliance? Make sure you explain your reasoning. So, aging is complex. It's the combination of biological, psychological, and social processes affecting people as they grow older. Biological processes involve physical body changes, what most people think of as aging. Psychological processes include mental, emotional, and cognitive capabilities that may change over time. Social processes involve cultural norms, values, and role expectations related to age, how society treats and expects things from people of different ages. All 3 interact constantly. Aging is not just biology. It's a social experience shaped by cultural expectations and individual psychology. 3 major functionalist theories offer different perspectives. We're going to talk about these 3 together. They are the functional theories. Disengagement theory suggests society and individuals naturally withdraw from each other as people age, preparing for death. Ugh. It argues this withdrawal is functional for society, removing people from traditional roles as they age. Activity theory argues the opposite. Successful aging involves staying active and engaged, replacing lost roles with new ones. Busy, engaged people lead more fulfilling lives. I could also take issue with that. Continuity theory takes a middle path. People maintain consistent behavioral patterns and adapt gradually to aging changes. Older adults fare best when participating in activities consistent with their personalities and earlier life experiences. Age theory offers different perspectives on how aging affects social relationships and sense of self. And personally, I have good things and bad things about each one of them. So let's go on, because there's more than functional theories. There's 2 important specific alternatives. And you'll note that over and over again, we come back to these 3 main theories when we're first getting to know sociology. Conflict theories emphasize how social structure shapes opportunities for older adults. Many problems of aging are systematically produced by social institutions rather than being natural or inevitable. Life course frameworks reject one-sided approaches, recognizing that age is shaped by historical time and place, like wars, pandemics, new technologies. All of these affect how people age. These approaches highlight that aging experiences aren't just individual. They're shaped by larger social forces and historical contexts. So let's go on to this question. Which theory suggests that older adults should gradually withdraw from social roles to make way for younger people? Well, that would be disengagement theory. This functionalist theory holds that it's a function for society to remove people from traditional roles when they become older adults, freeing up those roles for others. It's controversial because it seems to justify age discrimination and social isolation. So let's move on to some words demographers use about older adults. And remember, I am actually a demographer, so I'm more likely to use these words. We categorize older adults into 3 groups based on different needs and capabilities. We have young old, 65 to 74, old, 75 to 84, and oldest old, which are anyone 85 and older. The concept of cohort defined here is crucial. Groups born during the same time period share similar historical experiences. Someone born in 1940 experienced different historical events than someone born in 1960, shaping their aging experience significantly differently. So this is again one of those slides I got irritated with the fonts. There are 6 major challenges facing older adults. Ageism and stereotypes create discrimination based on age. Though the ADEA, which was in 1967, provides some protection. Healthcare costs are staggering. In 2015, nearly 1/3 had arthritis, 29% had heart disease, and 27% had diabetes. While 94% have Medicare coverage, nursing home costs averaged $94,000 a year in 2021. Social isolation from loss of spouses, friends, and mobility also leads to loneliness and depression, creating serious health problems. And there's also this idea of economic insecurity, which they suffer from inadequate savings and changing pension systems. There are also caregiver shortages resulting from shrinking family sizes and dangerous low-paid work conditions, and unfortunately the rise of elder abuse, which affects an estimated 15.7 globally, a massive underreported problem. This short answer question is, identify and explain 3 major challenges facing older adults in the United States today. For each challenge, suggest 1 potential solution. So remember, whenever I give you a short answer question, I'll give you a couple of sample answers. You may use them and then explain why you chose them, or you may find something new, or simply reflect on what you chose. 3 major challenges that are typical are the caregiver shortages due to shrinking families and poor working conditions. A solution could be to increase wages and benefits for care workers, or provide better training and career advancement opportunities for those who engage in that work. Financial health care burden and nursing home costs have been depleting savings as a problem. A solution could be expand Medicare coverage for long-term care, or develop more affordable community-based care options. Another problem that I identified before was social isolation leading to serious health problems. Perhaps the solution could be developing community programs, connecting older adults, promoting intergenerational activities, or using technology to maintain social connections. So I would like you to think about this discussion question. When we discuss ageism in society, the Age of Discrimination in Employment Act protects against, it's the ADEA, which I mentioned before, protects against discrimination in the workplace, but ageist attitudes persist in many areas of society. Can you think of examples of ageism you've observed in media, healthcare, or even daily interactions? And how do you think we can combat these stereotypes? You may want to consider media representation, intergenerational contact, education about aging realities, and challenging our own assumptions about what older adults can and cannot do as possible examples of responses. So now it's time for personal reflection and connection. Consider these questions. How have different agents of socialization shaped who you are today? What assumptions do you hold about aging, and where do they come from? How might your socialization experiences differ from your classmates? Share your thoughts and discover how our diverse experiences shape different perspectives on life. This isn't just academic. It's about understanding how we all became who we are through social processes. These are all things we will do throughout this semester. So I'm going to go real quick through these chapter review questions. Because they're so small, George Herbert Mead's ideas on the development of self have formed the basis for which general theoretical approach in sociology. And this is a question about which theory it's informing, either symbolic interactionism, Marxism, functionalism, or postmodernism. And Mead's ideas actually became foundational to symbolic interactionism, which is A in this case, because of his focus on how individuals develop self-awareness through social interaction and taking the role of the other. The second question I have here is, what role does socialization play in individuality or free will? And there it says learning the value of freedom and is critical in American culture. Socialization teaches children proper limits of freedom. Socialization is essential to our sense of self-identity and capacity for independent thought, or socializing with others is important to individuality. The answer is C. Socialization is essential to our sense of identity and capacity for independent thought. Rather than limiting free will, socialization provides the foundation for developing our individual identity and ability to make independent choices. Your review question 3, which is cut off, said which of the following statements about gender socialization is correct? What's important here is that research shows male characters typically outnumber female characters in media and take more active roles, while female characters are often portrayed more passively. Since you can't see the options, I just want to make sure you have the answer and not confuse you. So here's our final reflection question, and it's your synthesis challenge. How do socialization, life course stages, and aging theories connect to create comprehensive understanding of human development across the lifespan? A strong answer should connect socialization as foundation through early aging shaping identity and values, life course transitions bringing new socialization experiences, aging theories explaining how society shapes roles and expectations for older adults, and continuity showing how early socialization influences later life choices. It's important to remember historical context by demonstrating how cohort effects and social change impact development across all the stages. This is not just theory, it's the story of human development from birth to death, shaped by forces at every stage. Well, I'm not sure I'm a fan of using gamma to make these presentations, but I tried it once and we'll see how it goes. I hope that you will be able to enjoy the lecture quiz and the discussion board. Remember, I would prefer you to try and engage with the lecture quiz by Wednesday so that I know you have engaged with the material, and it would be great if you can make your first discussion prompt so that on Sunday you have others to respond to, but everything is due Sunday. Have a great week.